The true historical story about Western region that most people don't know. The Forgotten Paths, how the Western region people became Ghanaian long before maps etched the word Ghana onto the land, long before colonial borders and modern cities, the forests, rivers, and coastline of what is today Ghana were alive with movemental shifting, trading, and settling in ways history books often ignore. Among these were the communities who would become the Western region. The ancestors of the Western region did not arrive in Ghana as conquerors or invaders. They were navigators of rivers, forest paths, and the Atlantic coastline. Some came from what is now the hinterlands of Ivory Coast, following the great rivers and the smell of the sea, while others were descendants of inland Akan groups who sought fertile lands and rich gold deposits. But unlike the Ashanti or the Fant, their story was quieter, less recorded, yet no less transformative. The people of these lands were known for their knowledge of the forest and the rivers. They were hunters, fishermen, and traders long before European ships appeared. They moved with a rhythm dictated by nature, following the rains to plant, the rivers to fish, and the forest trails to trade. Migration was not a single march from one point to another, it was a slow, layered process, a weaving of communities, a silent settlement that left no armies behind. Some came carrying stories of old kingdoms, bringing new farming techniques, iron tools, and sacred objects. They built villages near the coast for trade, but deeper inland for protection and hunting. They were the keepers of gold secrets long before the Europeans knew its value. The forest became their library, the rivers their highways, and the Atlantic their lifeline. What history rarely mentions is that these migrations were often invisible to outsiders. Unlike the Ashanti, who expanded into prominence, or the Fant, who controlled trade on the coast, the Western region people moved quietly, blending with existing communities, sharing knowledge, intermarrying, and creating networks that would later support Ghana's coastal economy. They were the unsung engineers of what would become the Western region's wealth, timber, gold, and cocoa lands. By the 17th and 18th centuries, European traders began arriving, and suddenly the paths these people had carved through the forest and along the coast became important trade routes. But even then, the stories of how these lands were settled like silent migration, the blending of communities, the invisible builders of society remained largely unrecorded. In truth, the Western region did not migrate in a single event. It grew, like Ghana itself, around the people already there. They were not conquerors, they were cultivators, land of culture, of networks. Their story is the quiet heartbeat beneath the loud history of empires, steady, enduring, and essential. And that is why, when people speak of Ghana's formation, the Western region often fades into the background. But the forests remember. The rivers remember. The people remember. Their migration was not marked by battles or kings, it was marked by knowledge, survival, and a migration that was less a journey and more a living, breathing transformation of the land into home.